Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Wrestling Highlights of the Week, presented by My Two Cents Podcast, hosted by G2. I am G2. For the people that's unaware of or you're brand new to this podcast, first and foremost, I would like to say hello to you. What this particular portion of the podcast is, the Wrestling Highlights of the Week, it's me talking about everything that happened in the world of professional wrestling. From the world of WWE, TNA, and AEW, I talk about everything that happened on screen. If there's some stuff that happened behind the scenes, I'll give a little bit of details about that. That's usually what the Wrestling Highlights of the Week consists of. For this week, AEW, they're dealing with the fallout from their World's End pay-per-view, so that's what happened on Dynamite this week. I'm going to talk about things that happened there. WWE, we're moving into Raw on Netflix, so they're really trying to hammer home on every single show that WWE has. That Raw is moving to Netflix this Monday, so they just try to build up for the debut episode of Raw on Netflix this week. And TNA, it was quite simple, and I'm going to get into TNA in a minute, but that's what I talk about in the Wrestling Highlights of the Week. So just to give you guys fair warning, that's what's up. So with that, let's move on into TNA. TNA this week, it was quite simple. You usually have matches to start the show, and as the show progresses, you get a couple storyline stuff come in here and there. This week, we would have, Ryan Nemeth coming out, and he would complain to the people about Joe Hendry, how Joe Hendry isn't taking the title off his brother, Nick Nemeth. Joe Hendry would come out, and those two have a little back and forth. Joe Hendry will call out Rhino so Ryan can have his match with Rhino. Ryan Nemeth will win his match by disqualification thanks to Rhino hitting him in the back with a chair, thanks to Ryan technically introducing the chair into the ring and Rhino stopping it and hitting Ryan, so Ryan got the win over disqualification. Later in the night, you'll see Ryan complaining in the trainer's room, complaining that he's hurt, but more talking about how he can't wait to tell Nick what Rhino did to him. And all the while that's happening, the trainer is looking at Ryan like, I don't see nothing wrong with you. You're good. Then when Nick comes in, again, Ryan is snitching to Nick about what Rhino did to him. And then you get Rhino coming in saying, your brother introduced a chair. And then you get Nick being the older brother, supporter brother, standing up for Ryan. All in all, it sets up to a tag team match next week. Joe Hendry and Rhino going against the Nemeth brothers. So that's set up for next week. We had Kushida going against Ace Austin in a great X Division matchup. Ace Austin would win the match by hitting the fold on Kushida. And then after the match is over, Ace Austin would get a microphone, talk about Chris Bay, talk about when Chris Bay was about to go into surgery and Ace was by his side. Chris kind of gave Ace the blessing to go off and do singles action, and he wants Ace Austin to go big and win the TNA World Championship. So as Ace is calling his shot, out would walk Moose, the X Division champion, and Moose would kind of talk trash to Ace Austin for trying to jump the X Division championship and go after the TNA championship, saying that he doesn't want to go after the hardest working championship in TNA, the actual belt that makes TNA what TNA is. And Moose was about to say Chris Bay's name, but Ace would stop him. Ace would tell Moose, don't you say his name. You have no right to say his name. And Ace would talk about how he can take the title off of Moose because Ace is a 3-time X Division champion. Santino will come out, and Santino would make the match for Genesis between Moose and Ace Austin for the X Division championship. So you had that. In the main event, you had Jordan Grace, the TNA Knockouts champion, Masha Slamovich, and the TNA Knockouts tag team champion, Spitfire, going against the team of Rosemary, Tasha Steelz, and Ash and Heather by Elegance. Now, the thing with this is Jordan Grace, all throughout the episode, she was waiting for Tessa Blanchard to show up because it was advertised that Tessa was supposed to show up to TNA. Jordan Grace got attacked by Tessa Blanchard at the last TNA pay-per-view event. I believe it was Final Resolution. So Jordan Grace is waiting for Tessa to come around so she can get her pound of flesh. She doesn't get it because Tessa would eventually show up after her match is over. Jordan Grace would win the match for her team by hitting the Juggernaut Driver on Tasha Steelz to get the win for her team. After the match is over, Tessa would attack her from behind, and as Tessa's putting the boots to Jordynne Grace, all the bad guys that are Rosemary, Tasha, Ash, and Heather will go after Masha and Spitfire. While Tessa's taking care of Jordynne Grace, she would drag Jordynne Grace out by her neck, basically choking her on the ground, dragging her out, and throw her out of the building and shut the door on her, saying that this is my building, this is my company, I made the Knockouts division, and I'm here to take back my seat. So you can already tell Jordynne Grace and Tessa Blanchard are on a crash course for a match, more than likely at Genesis. We had another segment earlier in the night too with Mike Santana. He comes out, he has Josh Alexander's headgear. He took that from him at Final Resolution when they were in the Fatal 4-Way matchup. Josh Alexander and his crew would come out, and Mike Santana basically tells him he could take on all of them, and he sets up a match for himself to do that next week in a gauntlet match. So Mike Santana will go against the Northern Armory next week to basically prove that he could beat Josh and his group. So that match gets set up, and that's basically what happened with TNA. Now, the thing here is TNA is starting to lose a lot of people, and you can see it right on television now because they're setting up certain things because people's contracts are already starting to expire. You already have Speedball Mike Bailey's contract expired. He's a free agent now. Josh Alexander, this I feel is going to be his last rivalry that he has in TNA before he basically leaves and explore the free agency pool. Basically be able to go and talk to any wrestling promotion that he feels like, because he has mentioned on a past interview with Chris Van Vliet that his contract is up in February, like early February. So I see this probably being his last feud that he has with anybody in TNA to give Mike Santana the pat on the shoulder to kind of pop him up into the main event status where Mike Santana wants to be. And same thing with Jordynne Grace. Jordynne Grace, she's leaving TNA. You kind of can see it because she's done everything that you could possibly do for the Knockouts division. She's already a former multiple-time TNA Knockouts champion. She was the woman holding the Knockout division up last year and technically the year before that. And she just got highlighted on NXT last year during the summer. So I feel that with her contract basically going to be up, she's going to put Tessa in a good position, do that one last favor for TNA, and then more than likely leave to go to WWE, who Shawn Michaels already likes Jordynne Grace. So I can see her literally signing there and being one of Shawn Michaels' prize pupils when she goes to NXT. So that's what I feel is going to happen with Jordynne since she's leaving. So TNA, they're already putting people in position to be in to be in the place for the person that's leaving. With Mike Santana taking the spot of Josh Alexander and Tessa Blanchard taking the spot of Jordynne Grace. Now, with Speedball Mike Bailey, that's going to be a tricky one because I would like to see who's going to take that spot. Me personally, since they just re-signed AJ Francis to a deal TNA, I would like to see TNA give the spotlight over to AJ Francis and what he's been doing with Casey Navarro and hopefully a returning Rich Swann down the line in Top Flight, or not Top Flight because that's over in AEW, but First Class would be the group in TNA that kind of starts taking titles in the new year, because we had it with the system last year. We need a new group to take over that spot. So hopefully we get First Class to do that here in TNA. But that's all the TNA stuff that happened this week. So that's your TNA Wrestling Highlights of the Week. And now I want to move over to AEW. As I said, this is their Fallout from the World's End pay-per-view. At World's End, you had the return of Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega did not show up on this episode of Dynamite, but they did play a highlight package of Kenny Omega and did announce that Kenny Omega will be at AEW next week. But Kenny Omega, at the time of this recording being dropped, because I dropped this on Saturday, over in Japan, he's supposed to be going against Gabriel Kidd. So I expect that to happen on Sunday at Wrestle Dynasty. So He's going to have his first match back in over a year over in New Japan against Gabriel Kidd. I expect that to be a hard-hitting feat. We'll probably see Kenny Omega on Dynamite with a couple black eyes, but that's happening over there. Also got on World's End, we saw the return of the Rated R superstar, Cope. Adam Copeland, formerly known as, and also formerly known as Edge. He's now going by Cope. So, hey, just call him that. He's cool with that, so that's just what it is. So he's back. He's with his buddies, FTR. And on this episode of Dynamite, you saw Rated FTR going against the Death Riders. But before we get to that, let me talk about the matches that happened on Dynamite. We had Adam Page versus Orange Cassidy to start the match. To start the night off, and Adam Page would win the match by hitting a pair of Buckeyes or Deadeyes on Orange Cassidy to win the match. After the match was over, you saw Hangman continue to beat up on Orange Cassidy. You saw referees and backstage officials like Christopher Daniels come out to pull Hangman off of Orange Cassidy, and Hangman would punch Christopher Daniels. And then he would tell Christopher Daniels to stay out of his business as Hangman leaves the ring and walk to the back. Hangman getting his win over Orange Cassidy, I think nobody has a problem with it because Orange Cassidy, again, he's a laissez-faire character. We all know what he can do in the ring, but Hangman Page, again, he's been going down this descent of madness since the end of 2023. Since his stuff with Swerve and all of 2024, he was still going into madness, and he just hasn't hit that rock bottom yet. I have a feeling in 2025, he's going to hit that rock bottom part, and that might be the start of the redemption arc for Adam Page, but we're still on that madness right now with Adam, and I ain't got no beef with that. So that's what's up with Adam Page. Next up, we had the Hurt Syndicate going against the Acclaimed, and in this match, when it was announced, I thought it was going to be Max Caster that was going to walk away from Anthony Bowens in this matchup. But I was dead wrong. It was Anthony Bowens that walked away from Max Caster. Because Max, for the last couple months, he's been saying that he's the best wrestler alive, feeling real arrogant, feeling real cocky, feeling real full of himself. And Anthony Bowens just got tired of it. When Anthony was in control of the match, Max would tag himself in, and Anthony would just look at him, and you see those two just bicker with one another. Anthony would say, "You're the best wrestler alive? Prove it. Go in there and prove it then." And Max would go in there, and he would just get dog walked by Shelton Benjamin. Shelton would just beat up on Max, and Anthony, he would walk down from the steps and just watch from the outside of the ring as Max is just getting German suplex. Bobby comes in, hits a spear on Max, and the Hurt Syndicate gets the win. So the Hurt Syndicate isn't looking for Max Caster, so that idea is done. Do I see Anthony Bowens going over to the Hurt Syndicate? It could be, because people have been chanting for a year about now that they wanted Anthony Bowens to be a singles guy. They wanted him to move away from Max Caster. I can see that being the case going into 2025 the way that we're in. But right now, we got to get that full split between Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, have them do their little feud before they both can go about their own separate ways and see what both of them could do after doing this whole Acclaim shtick for the last, this is, I want to say, 3 years now. So time will tell what both men can do. After this, we had the return match of Julia Hart. She went against Jamie Hayter. Julia has been out of action since, I want to say, Wrestle Dynasty. Not Wrestle Dynasty, but AEW Dynasty. When she dropped the title to Willow Nightingale, the TBS title. So this is her first match back since that matchup. And she would get the win over Jamie Hayter. It was solid wrestling from Jamie and Julia. Julia was spit mist into the eye of Jamie Hayter and roll her up for the win. Now, the thing about this situation is that when Julia spit the mist, you didn't see mist come out. It just seems like I'm not gonna say a glob, but just like something spit out of her mouth. You didn't get the full effect of the mist. And Julia still being recovering from this, she would hurry up, pin Jamie. Jamie being the professional, she would cover her face and still act like she got covered in mist in the face. And the camera didn't catch her not one time without her hands over her face, acting like she got mist in it. So I'm glad that Jamie was, again, professional enough to know that the camera was always going to be on her when the time comes around for that, and always cover up her face. Julia gets the win, first match back. Again, not a problem. Hopefully, people didn't get too butthurt about that. Again, it's her first match back. Mistakes are going to happen, and this happened to be a mistake. It's all good, in my opinion, but a solid situation for her to be back. After this, we have Mercedes Moné come out to the ring. She talked to the crowd. She throws up a video package of her highlights of herself debuting in AEW last year. She talked about her upcoming match against Mina Shirakawa at Wrestle Dynasty, and she talks about how she's going to take the Rev Pro Wrestling Championship away from Mina Shirakawa at Wrestle Dynasty, and that was basically it. So that was a self-promotional promo from Mercedes Moné, and as I just stated, she's going against Mina Shirakawa Sunday in Japan time for her Rev Pro Women's Championship, and also Mercedes New Japan Strong Women's World Championship. So it's title for title matchup over there. And more than likely, I expect Mercedes to win that, and she's going to hold a lot of belts, because right now she has a TBS Championship, she has the New Japan Strong Championship, and when she beats Mina Shirakawa, she's going to be holding that Rev Pro Women's Championship. And someone on Twitter mentioned this, and I didn't catch on to this, is that she's going to be the female belt collector, the same way that Kenny Omega was in, I want to say that was, 2021. Mercedes is going to do the exact same thing. She's going to be collecting belts, holding a lot of belts, being at a lot of different promotions, and just basically promoting herself, but also promoting AEW just everywhere. And I have no problem with that, because more times that we get Mercedes in the ring wrestling instead of always just talking or doing nothing, that's a good thing. And AEW, they're still a brand newish company, and they still need to be heavily promoted everywhere. And I think Mercedes is going to be doing that. I think that's great, because she still has the marketability of her former run of being Sasha Banks in WWE. So it's great business for Tony to be doing this. Next up, we had a triple threat match where it was Swerve Strickland going against Jay White, going against Roderick Strong, where the winner of this matchup will be the first entrant into next week's Casino Gauntlet matchup. Now, the reason why you want to be the first entrant in the Casino Gauntlet matchup is the match can end at any time. It starts off 1 versus 1. Then, after a couple minutes go by, another entrant comes out. And the match could be won at any time. The only thing you got to do is pin or submit the person, that's it. It can have 5 people in, it can have 6 people in, it can have 7, it can even have 3 people in. It all ends whenever someone gets pinned. So being the first entrant in the Casino Gauntlet matchup is very important. So to have Swerve, Jay White, and Roderick Strong compete in this slot, it was a very, very smart move of AEW. Jay White would get the win. He would win the match. He's now the first entrant into the Casino Gauntlet next week when you hit the Blade Runner on Roderick Strong. So Jay White gets the win. After the match is over, you see Ricochet basically start brutalizing Swerve Strickland. Because towards the end of the match, when Swerve was basically beating up on Roderick Strong outside of the ring, you saw him standing on the barricade, posing to the crowd. Ricochet will quickly appear from the crowd, drop Swerve off the barricade, and just wait. Well, no, he hits him technically with a pair of scissors in the head. And then laid Swerve out, and that allowed Jay White to hit Roderick Strong with the Blade Runner to get the win. After the match was over, Ricochet pops over the barricade. Swerve is bleeding from his forehead, just bleeding down his face. Ricochet starts attacking Swerve more with the scissors in the forehead. Prince Nana tries to stop Ricochet, but Ricochet just looks at Nana and says, "You don't want to do that. You don't want this." Nana will back up for a minute. Ricochet would go back to beating up on Swerve. He goes over to the timekeeper area, grabs a steel chair. Nana goes over to Ricochet again, grabs a chair from Ricochet. Now you get Ricochet and Nana having a tug of war with the chair. Ricochet pushes Nana into the steps. Then you see Ricochet go over to Nana, hit him in the back with the chair. Then he puts his focus right back on Swerve. Gets in the ring, sits the chair up, sits down, and looks at Swerve as he's bleeding. Ricochet will get Swerve up, hit him with a clothesline, and just stand over him. And at this point, Ricochet has like Swerve's blood on his business shirt. And you see Ricochet just smiling and laughing and cackling about this. Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong would run down to the ring to make the save for Swerve. Ricochet would leave, and that's how we leave this situation. I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this progression that we see from Ricochet. This is something that we needed to see from Ricochet when he jumped over from WWE to AEW at All In. And me personally, I always am cool with let's show a new side of yourself. And that's what we're getting from Ricochet here. Ricochet is showing a new side. We're seeing a different side from Ricochet that we haven't seen in some time. For me, I've been looking at him since independent stuff, and I don't remember him ever being this vicious or cruel on the independents. I mean, he was a little cocky then, but I mean, like, he was always Ricochet. Hey, I could do cool moves. Hey, I'm the cool guy. Hey, I look flashy in the ring, like that type of business. But now we're starting to see a more cockier, nastier side of Ricochet here after that attack on Swerve, and I'm happy about it. And Swerve, it seems that this is the role that he is destined to play with a lot of people. Swerve has proven that he can pull things out from people that we haven't seen before. Like, obviously, he pulled out the madness side out of Hangman 2 years ago. And now we're starting to see Hangman still go down this walk of darkness. Ricochet now, after being pelted with toilet paper at Worlds and humiliated by Swerve, we're starting to see him go down a different path and just being psychopathic now. And again, that's all to Swerve's credit. Swerve is the guy that did that to Ricochet. He did tell him that he was going to embarrass him. So, I mean, this is where Swerve made his bed. Now he got to lie in it. He now has to go off against this different side of Ricochet, which I think Swerve knew he had to do that. I think this is what Swerve wanted. And I just can't wait to see the Swerve and Ricochet business conclude when it does happen. Let it continue to build up more, because we're more or less going to get a match between the two at Revolution. And again, for me, I think this is still going into Hurt Syndicate, because the Hurt Syndicate, they made a claim constantly saying that they hurt people. The reason why MVP tore up Ricochet's business card was that he didn't like Ricochet being a kiss butt. And now Ricochet showing this different side, I have a feeling the Hurt Syndicate is going to come back to Ricochet and try to recruit him again into the group, because now they're seeing that Ricochet is willing to hurt people. So I'm hoping that's where this is leading up to, but only time will tell. After this, we had Jeff Jarrett come into the ring. Jeff looks like he's about to announce some type of retirement, because he talks about his family, talks about his time over the years being in the wrestling business, coming from a wrestling family, from his grandmother to his father, all this stuff, right? And usually when an old-timey legend talks about this, they always mention how they're going to retire or something. He even sells it by saying that he has his wrestling boots in his hands, and it looks like he's about to retire, but he doesn't. He announces that he has signed a new deal with AEW. This is his last ever pro wrestling contract that he's ever going to be signing, and he wants to go out with a bang. He wants to go out holding gold, and he wants to go out holding AEW World Championship gold, to be more specific. So he does announce that he is going to be in the Casino Gauntlet matchup next week. So Jeff Jarrett, he wants to end his career holding AEW World Championship gold. Now, I'm not certain how this is going to work, to be honest with you, because Jeff Jarrett, he is an older gentleman. I think he can still go in the ring, not to the capacity as all these young guys, obviously, but he does have a little something like Sting had something, right? Jeff can still move in the ring. But being world champion for AEW, I'm not certain how the fans are going to really deal with that. Like the people that go and pay their money, not the people online, because yeah, they're a part of it, but the people in the crowd, I wonder how they're going to really feel about that. I think Jeff Jarrett being a TNT champion, that could work. Uh, International champion, you're kind of skating on ice with that one. Being a trio champion, it could work because he will be hiding behind Jay Lethal and Satnam Singh. He'll be able to do that. But world champion, I don't know. Again, I gotta be more convinced from AEW's side to see how they do it, but time will tell with that. Next up, we had a 1-on-2 handicap match. Powerhouse Hobbs just basically beating up two guys. Powerhouse gets the win. That's the end of that. Now we go over to the main event. Rated FTR going against the Death Riders. Rated FTR would get the win thanks to, in part, Jay White's participation in this. When Adam Copeland, or Cope, is outside the ring messing around with Mox, they're doing their business outside the ring, and the referee isn't paying attention to the inside the ring action, he misses Jay White coming into the ring and hitting Wheeler Yuta with the Blade Runner. And at the time of Jay hitting the Blade Runner on Yuta, Cope hits Moxley with a spear, it looks like, through the barricade. And when Claudio pays attention to this, to what's going on with Wheeler, he jumps in the ring to try to stop Jay White, but Jay White's already left the ring at this time. FTR kicks Claudio out of the ring. They hit the Shatter Machine on Wheeler Yuta. Adam Copeland comes in the ring, hits the spear on Yuta, gets the win. Rated FTR gets the win over the Death Riders. So this already sets up for future matches down the line. Copeland already mentions how he wants to have a match with Moxley for the AEW World Championship. It's going to be old school, rugged, gritty. That's going to be cool. Will that happen at Revolution? It might. By the way this is going, I can see it happening there. But also, you got to remember, Christian is somewhere in the back lurking because he still has his contract that he can cash in at any time to become the AEW World Champion. So only time will tell what they're going to do with that. But at this time, I have a feeling AEW's on the right path. AEW, they're missing a couple pieces. We didn't see Will Ospreay on the show. We didn't see the Undisputed Kingdom as a collective on the show. We had a video package from MJF, not him being in person, but MJF's purpose was that he is done with the chapter of him and Adam Cole, but he's coming back for his AEW World Championship, so he has his eyes set on that prize. So AEW, they're moving things around. 2025, it seems like it's going to be a good year. And again, the big thing is, at least in my eyes, from a wrestling standpoint, Kenny Omega and Okada. We all know that match is going to happen. More than likely at All In Texas. And we got to wait and see how next week's going to go awry. I have a feeling, and this is just me throwing this out here, I have a feeling that Okada is probably going to pop in at Wrestle Dynasty. He's either going to help out Gabriel Kidd beat up Omega, or he's going to be waiting for Omega after the match is over, come into the ring, have a stare down with Omega, and nothing's going to come of that. Okada might hit Gabriel Kidd with the Rainmaker or something, but something along those lines. Okada is going to be at Wrestle Dynasty over there in Japan. I have a feeling. So, only time will tell, but we're building up for Okada and Omega more likely at All In. Anyway, that was AEW Dynamite. So that was AEW's wrestling highlights of the week there. And now let's move over to WWE. I want to talk about WWE's developmental system, NXT. I want to say this is a real heavy female featured show because you have 3 female matches on the show here, which again, I got no beef with. NXT constantly shows you how to do it, how to make sure that your female wrestlers are represented on the show and they feel just as important as the male wrestlers, because the first match of the night, we had Kalani Jordan going against Lola Vice. They have something going on just a little because Kalani is constantly trying to go after Cora Jade because Cora screwed her out of getting, what was it? I believe the win a couple weeks ago. So Kalani's been pissed off at that. Lola Vice and Stephanie McCoy has been telling Kalani to calm herself down. Don't go down that path. Kalani told both of them that they're both hypocrites. So that's how we get this match here. Kalani would get the win, thanks to, in part, by Cora Jade coming down. When Kalani has Lola Vice behind the back, or vice versa, excuse me, Lola Vice has Kalani grab her up by the back, like in a German suplex position. Cora Jade would run down to the ring, get on the apron, and Kalani would kind of run into Cora, but just like move out the way so Lola Vice can hit Cora. And then you would have Kalani get Lola in a roll up, get the win that way. After the match is over, Cora Jade would come in, hit Kalani with the Singaporean cane that she has, hit her some more. Lola Vice would go over, try to talk to Cora Jade to tell her stop, but Cora would hit Lola Vice with it. Stephanie McCoy would come out. She would grab the kendo stick away from Cora. And now Cora is laughing at Stephanie, not knowing that Lola Vice is behind her. But when she does, she realizes it. Oh, crap, she's in trouble. So when she looks at Lola Vice, Lola tries to hit her with a spinning back fist, but Cora Jade would duck it, and Stephanie McCoy would get hit with the back fist, and Lola Vice would just be like, oh no, because she just hit Stephanie, a person that she's kind of cool with right now. Cora Jade would leave the ring, laugh at this display that just happened. Kalani would get up behind Lola and Stephanie, just kind of like shrug her shoulders, have her hands in the air, like, I don't know what to tell you. This sets up for later in the night. Stephanie is backstage pissed. Lola's trying to make amends, saying she apologized. Stephanie isn't trying to hear it. They're both speaking their native tongue. Ava will go up to Cora Jade and say, you're proud of yourself. Well, how about this? Next week at New Year's Eve, we're going to have a Fatal 4-Way matchup. You, Stephanie, Lola, Kalani. Winner of that Fatal 4-Way is the number one contender for the Women's North American Championship. So that match gets made official for next week. So there you go with that. Next match that we had was Cedric Alexander going against Ethan Page. Cedric Alexander is trying to get revenge on Ethan Page for beating up on Javon Evans a couple weeks ago, basically knocking a couple of teeth out of Javon's mouth. So that's the reason why this match is happening. Ethan Page, he would get the win by pinfall when he would hit the Twist of Fate on Cedric Alexander. After the match is over, Ethan Page would beat up on Cedric some more. He would throw Cedric out of the ring. He would grab a toolbox from underneath the ring, and he would open it up, place Cedric's hands on the side of it, slam the toolbox right onto Cedric's hand and finger, and now Cedric's in agonizing pain. Ethan is happy about it, and we're just getting more vicious side out of Ethan Page because Ethan, quote-unquote, lost a smile, but now he has regained it, and now he's just on this warpath of just being evil, which I'm cool with because Ethan Page being evil is the best Ethan Page that you can have on your roster or wrestling promotion. So after this, we had a triple threat tag team matchup. We had Shotzi and Gigi Dolan going against Katana Chance and Kaden Carter, going against the Metaphor Girls of Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. Lash and Jakara will get the win by pinfall thanks to, in part, help from what did they like to call themselves? I believe Fatal Attraction. You had Jasmine Minks come out to distract the referee as Gigi's on the top rope, and JC Jane would come down, get on the apron, push Gigi off, knocking her to the ground. Lash would hit the pump kick on Gigi, and then tag in Jakara. Then they would hit their tag finish, which is a wheelbarrow cutter, and they will get the win. So the Meta Girls would get the win, and I'm happy about it because the Meta Girls, they have been proven, I want to say since the middle of August, early September, even on the main roster, continuing on, they've been like a constant force for the tag team division, for the women's division. So for them to get this win, again, it proves that WWE has stock for the Meta Girls and that they see something in Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. Hopefully they get the freaking tag team title belts soon, personally. Not nothing against Bianca and Jade or Bianca and Naomi, but Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson, they've been really putting in that work, especially Lash. She's been really putting in that work for some time now. And I feel that people putting in that work in that business deserves to get like a pat on the back or like the attaboy type of treatment and get like rewarded with something. So with Lash and Jakara, they might be saying, well, they get rewarded with a lot of air TV time, which is cool, but something that like a trinket, the tag team belts, wrestling belts, that's the ultimate trinket, at least for a professional wrestler. So hopefully they get that soon. Next matchup, we have Sol Ruka. Sol Ruka will go against Izzy Dane. In Sol Ruka's corner, you have Zyra out there. Izzy Dane would win the match thanks to a situation when Sol Ruka was going to hit a moonsault onto Izzy Dame outside the ring. And Zyra is close to Izzy Dame. Dame would grab Zyra and shove her in the way. So when Sol Ruka hits the moonsault, Sol Ruka hits Zyra instead of Izzy. And once Sol gets up from the moonsault, she realizes she hits Zyra. She's like, oh no. Izzy Dame would hit Sol Ruka with a big boot, throw her into the ring, hit a, God, I want to say a spine buster, but a sit-out spine buster, and get the win that way. So with Izzy getting the win, we're constantly building up on the story of Zyra and Sol Ruka. Sol and Zyra, they were a team a couple weeks ago when they went against Lash Legend and not Jada Parker, but God, I just said her name, Jakara Jackson, the Meta Girls. And they had a miscommunication there. Meta Girls will get the win over Sol and Zyra. This is now their second miscommunication that Sol and Zyra are having. And I have a feeling that we're going to get a match between Zyra and Sol, with Zyra, again, being the aggressor, being the, I want to say heel in the feud between Sol Ruka and Zyra, because it just feels that way. Zyra feels like she feels like a presence, like a brick house type of presence, like a muscled up type presence, like, yo, like, I need to be out here dominating people. And that's what I feel is going to be happening with Zyra whenever she finally snaps on Sol and starts beating up on Sol. So that we're just slow cooking that feud up at this time right now. We're going to just keep it honest. But that's what happened there with the women. Main event time, you had a 6-man tag, Hank and Tank with a returning Andre Chase going against a team of Wesley, Tyson DuPont, and Tariq Igwe. Wesley, Tyson, and Tariq, they would get the win over Hank, Tank, and Andre Chase. When Andre Chase would... Andre Chase is relapsing from losing Chase U. You see him come out, he doesn't have his Chase U shirt on, he doesn't have none of that. He comes out in just basically a business white plain t-shirt, some pants, and he's still feeling dejected. As this match happens, he's getting himself together, he's starting to feel himself, to the point that he even starts really feeling like the old Andre Chase when he was doing Chase U. So when he hits the Russian leg sweep onto Wesley, he's starting to do the kicks, and he's about to do the Chase U kicks. But he looks at his tag partner, and he realizes, oh snap, there is no such thing as Chase U. And then he just, again, goes back to depression mode, goes over to Tank, tags in Tank, and then just leaves the arena, and he just saddened out. Hank would look at that and be like, what's going on? And he just can't figure it out, but screw it. He has to go and do the business. So that was a 3-on-2. Tariq would hit Hank with a stunner, get the win. So you got Wesley, Tyson, and Tariq getting the win. And that's just what's up with it right now. So it seems that we're again going to have to rebuild on getting the courage of Chase U back, or Andre Chase more particularly, and see what happens from there. And it's real interesting that they want to bring Andre Chase back now, because Andre Chase hasn't been doing nothing in the last, they got rid of Andre Chase in early or mid-November, and it's now January now, so you had a whole month and a half, and we haven't seen Andre Chase, we haven't seen Duke Hudson, we haven't seen uh, Riley Osborne, and we haven't seen Thea Hale on NXT in some time. So I wonder what are they going to do with Duke, Riley, and Thea, since now we're starting to see they got to have to build up Andre Chase again. I wonder what's going to happen with those other three. But time will tell, and we're just going to wait and see what NXT does with that. At the end of the show is the final segment. NXT would announce their man of the year, and it was Obafemi. Obafemi comes out, he grabs the trophy, he starts cutting this promo saying that he doesn't care about trophies, he doesn't care about the people controlling nothing, they don't control nothing, I control everything because I'm the ruler, and all this stuff, right? Trick Williams comes out, he tells Oba, listen, you care about this stuff. As a matter of fact, you should care about these type of things because the fans are the people that got you to where you are right now. Yeah, you're a dominating force, but the fans are the fans, and it feels good to receive some type of love, so you shouldn't feel any type of way about that. Then you get Trick going into Obafemi, talking about how Obafemi should be worried about Trick Williams, and how right now it should be title for title. As a matter of fact, it just should be a one-on-one matchup, but Obafemi couldn't get the job done. Obafemi couldn't get the job done going against Tony D'Angelo, and him dropping NXT title, NXT North American Championship there. And then when he couldn't beat Tony D'Angelo, he left, and he was gone for some time. And he asked, where was Obafemi during that time? And where's Obafemi going to be whenever he loses again next week in the triple threat match and doesn't get the NXT Championship? What's going to happen to Obafemi then? So we get this standoff between Trick and Oba, and unbeknownst to them, Eddie Thorpe comes in behind them and attacks both guys. This was saying Oba thrusted into Trick Williams, and Trick would fall outside the ring. Eddie Thorpe would grab Oba's award, pop him in the head with it. Now Oba's down, Trick Williams is down outside the ring, the NXT title is in the ring. Eddie Thorpe will grab the NXT Championship, hold it up in the air, and that's how NXT will end. And this, it gives false hope, because we all know Eddie Thorpe isn't winning the NXT title next week, but we need something to close out the show, and Eddie Thorpe holding the NXT Championship is cool, but we all know as viewers that's not going to be the case next week. But fine, let people believe what they can believe, all right? Or at least let Eddie fill the NXT Championship, because we know he ain't winning it next week. And speaking of next week, NXT, they have their show next week. It is going to be NXT's New Year's Evil. There's 5 matches on that show. You have the 6-woman tag of Fatal Influence going against a team of Gigi Dolan, Shotzi, and Tatum Paxley. You have Lexis King defending the NXT Heritage Cup against Charlie Dempsey in a Sudden Rules matchup. You have the Fatal 4-Way to determine the number 1 contender for the NXT Women's North American Championship, which is Cora Jade, Kalani Jordan, Lola Vice, and Stephanie McCourt. You have the NXT Women's Championship being defended, Roxanne defending her title against Julia. And then you have the triple threat for the NXT Championship. You have Trick Williams going against Obafemi, going against Eddie Thorpe. So that's your NXT wrestling highlights of the week there. And now, off of developmental system, let's go over into the main roster as we want to go over into Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw, nothing really of, I'm not going to say nothing really of importance, because I'll say this. You had the beginning of the show of New Day coming out. New Day started the show, and as per usual, as it has been for the last couple weeks, New Day can't get words out edgewise over the people. The people don't want to hear from New Day. They don't hear what they got to say. No, nothing. So they can't say nothing without getting booed, right? The Dominic Mysterio circa 2022 effect when he turned on Ray and Edge. So they're getting booed, right? Jey Uso would come out. Jay would get in the ring. He would get pleaded from New Day to tell the fans to hush down so they at least can speak. Jay does his part, tell the crowd to hush so the New Days can speak, but he says, let these chumps speak. So the crowd hushes. New Day tries to speak. They begin straight up get booed. Booed again. So Kofi tells Jay, tell the people how long we known each other. Jay says, we know each other for a long time. So I only got one thing to ask you guys. Well, I only got one thing to tell you guys. New Day sucks. And now Jay is clapping New Day sucks, getting the crowd to do it. And now you see Xavier pissed. Kofi is just looking at Jay like, you serious? Xavier is more upset at this. And he tells Jay point blank, you had better watch your back. Watch your back. So now New Day leaves the ring. Jay's in there. Jay calls Drew McIntyre out because Drew has a beef with Jimmy, Solo, and Jay. So as he's calling Drew out, he doesn't see Drew come out from the crowd. Drew comes in, beats up on Jay, right? Drew wants to hit the Claymore kick, but Jay would get up, hit Drew with a super kick, and now you got a beat down between both of those two. Officials will come out to get in between Jay and Drew, and they separate them. Drew would get the better. He would hit Jay with the Scottish kiss, or the Glasgow kiss, which is a headbutt. And then Jay would go down. Drew leaves the ring. They start following Drew up the ramp. Drew would run back into the ring, hit the Claymore kick on Jay, and now Drew's happy. Later in the night, Jay would walk up to Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce says, I know what you want, and I got Drew McIntyre out of here. You guys are not touching one another, but how about this? Next week, on the first episode of Raw on Netflix, you versus Drew McIntyre. Jay would do the yeet sign, and we got our match made for next week. Jay versus Drew. So there's that. We had Chad Gable versus Otis. Chad Gable would win the match. I wish they would have did this match earlier. I wish they would have did this match whenever this rivalry was actually at its peak instead of when it was at its cooling point the way it is now. Because when you look at this match, if you would have told people after Chad Gable lost to Sammy constantly for the Intercontinental Championship and the way they were building up Chad Gable versus Otis, the way they were building that up, right? If that match would have happened then, the crowd would have really felt electric, and we would be like, okay, we're finally getting this match. We're getting something to blow off from this. Not mad months later where you have Chad Gable with the American Made team, which again, American Made, they are doing absolutely nothing. Hopefully, 2025, they switch that up, and hopefully they get a better name than American Made, because God, that name is trash. But the talent in that group isn't. So hopefully they get a better name, but instead of us getting this now, we should have got it earlier. And again, the crowd was still ready for it because Chad and Otis, we all know the history of those two, but I just feel that if we would have got that match earlier, whenever it was really hot and important, it would have made a bigger impact, and it probably would have got Chad Gable to the point of where he needed to be. But time will tell, especially Otis too. Otis, he's too great of a guy. Otis has been given things and he made it work constantly. So Otis needs to be given some type of attaboy too. Somewhere down the line, he needs it. Or he deserves it more. More importantly, no, can't even say deserve. He's earned it. Just like Chad has earned it, Otis has earned an attaboy. So hopefully both of those two guys get that somewhere down the line in 2025. Another important thing that happened on Raw was both of the semifinals for the Women's Intercontinental Championship matches were determined, the winners. You had Dakota Kai going against Zoe Stark. Dakota would win that match. And then you had later in the night, Lyra Valkyria defeating Io Sky. So now, not next week, but the week after that, on Monday Night Raw, so 2 weeks from now, on Monday Night Raw, you will have Lyra going against Dakota Kai for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. So the finals. I'm happy for them getting that. You would think you would want it on the first episode of Raw, but with everything happening on Raw, with Rhea going against Liv, with Punk going against Seth, with Roman going against Solo, I mean, you don't want the Intercontinental Championship being lost in the shuffle, but it's the first ever Women's Intercontinental Champion being crowned. I don't think it's going to be lost in the shuffle. I think that Raw, or at least the heads up, the head people running that brand or management for Raw, they want that more than likely to be the main event. And with all those big heavy hitters on next week's episode of Monday Night Raw, that won't be the main event at all. So if they make it the main event of that following week, I'll be happy for them to do it. That's where it should be. If anything other than not the main event, I think they're doing them a complete disservice. So time will tell what's going to happen, but that's what's up with that. We still continued on with the Judgment Day and Damian Priest business because we had the 6-man of JD, Dominic, and Finn going against the World Tag Team Champions, the War Raiders, and Damian Priest. Priest and the Raiders would win the match. After the match was over, Judgment Day starts beating up on Damian Priest as per usual, going after his legs. War Raiders will come out and make the save again and run off Judgment Day. And that's just where we're at. I want Finn and Priest to hurry up and end the same way like I want Liv and Rhea's thing to end. Hopefully, again, next week, they put a cap on the Rhea and Liv story, at least for now, because boy, do both of them need a heavy restart. And Finn and Priest, they both need a restart. Priest, he was great leaving out of Mania as world champion. His start of his world championship run wasn't that great, but as he moved into it, it was getting better and better, and the crowd actually got behind him when he was facing Gunther at SummerSlam. Got behind him after his match with Gunther, and they're still behind him, but not as much now. Hopefully, when he moves away from Finn, the fans will get back with him, and Priest will get back to being who he needs to be. And Finn, I've said it, I want to say it was last week when I talked about the awards and when I recapped WWE, I mentioned how this year needs to be the year of Finn Balor. Needs to be the year of him winning a world championship. Something down the line, something needs to happen for him. Because if he doesn't win a world championship this year, I've said it and I mean it, he needs to leave WWE. And he needs to go, I don't care if it's to TNA, I don't care if it's to AEW, I don't care if it's freaking back to New Japan. He needs to go back to where he needs to feel recognized as a important person. Because nobody's going to tell me when he left NXT and came up to the main roster, he didn't feel like an important person. And Vince, and I'm going to put this on Vince because Vince has this tendency, because I can give an example of this exact situation happening. Whenever he puts you in a position for you to hold a major championship and you happen to get injured immediately after he decides to put you in that spot, he looks at you differently. And I say that because Dolph Ziggler is another example of that. Dolph Ziggler, Money in the Bank holder, he cashes it on Alberto Del Rio the night after Mania 29. Biggest reaction. People couldn't wait. People were happy that Dolph wins the world championship, right? Dolph gets injured before his freaking first defense of that championship on a pay-per-view. Head gets hit with a ladder, gets concussed. He's out for a couple months. Comes back, drops the title to Alberto Del Rio, never gets to hold a world championship ever again throughout his time in WWE. And I believe he was all the other time after that, either Intercontinental Champion, US Champion, Tag Champion, went to NXT to help NXT up, become NXT Champion, but never back to being a World Champion ever again. Had different shots at being a WWE or Universal Champion, but just never got that time to be the champion again. And same thing with Finn. Finn gets injured, he's the first Universal Champion, but he gets injured in a match against Seth while he becomes the first Universal Champion. Next night, Monday Night Raw, has to drop it. He comes back, never gets back to being Universal Champion. He becomes Intercontinental Champion, and then he goes back to NXT, rebuilds himself back up, becomes a major focal point of NXT Champion, gets back to main roster. We thinking, okay, round 2, let's try it again, see what happens. And what do they do when he has a shot against Roman Reigns the first time? He doesn't get it because John Cena comes in, swipe it, writes his name in the contract. No Finn and Roman at SummerSlam. We get it at Extreme Rules, and that crap goes directly to hell because we have the mishap of someone cutting the top rope where the demon falls, and we have no explanation of why that happened, why that planning decision happened anytime. And the demon ends up losing to Roman Reigns, and Roman retains his Universal Championship. And it just went right down after that. Again, nothing of good has come for Finn being on the main roster, of being a world champion yet. Nothing. Had his time in 2023, in his time of going against Seth in summer. And again, that didn't happen. So again, I just feel passionate about Finn because Finn got a wrong hand dealt to him of an injury. And Trips, that's one of your guys. That's your boy. You need to make him a world champion this year to have him get that, let's give you the shot and give you the shine which you have earned off of a misfortune that wasn't your fault. So again, hopefully in 2025, Finn becomes world champion, get away from Damian Priest, gets to do his world championship business, and again, becomes a major player the way that we know he can be. Now, off to the main thing that happened on Monday Night Raw. Seth and Punk. Seth and Punk had their final confrontation as they move over into, they say this is going to be the main event of Raw on Netflix, but again, time will tell with that one. But with their confrontation that they had, it should be the main event. And I'm going to play you their confrontation that I cut up to give you the nice good parts of it. So here's the confrontation between Seth Rollins and CM Punk that happened on this week's episode of Monday Night Raw.
Took his ball and went home. The most industry plant, cliche bootlicker line I've ever heard in my entire life. What paragon of virtue did you get that from, huh? Who originally said that? That wanted to turn the people against the boys when he got told no, or when he got told you're wrong. Did Stone Cold Steve Austin take his ball and go home? You know, I haven't seen the man around these parts in quite some time. Did she take her ball and go home too? Or is it just me, Seth? You want to tell these people that I turned my back on them? You want to tell 15,000 strong in Houston that I abandoned them? When in reality, you just want to cry because I abandoned you. I was sick and tired, and I left this place, and you stayed, and you ate it. We both made our choices. We both made our decisions. I have no regrets.
You know the difference between you and everybody else that left? They actually did leave, all right? My wife, she's taking a break to raise a kid. I know you don't know what that's like. Stone Cold, he said it was the biggest mistake he ever made. He understands about change, all right? You left. You wanted this place to die with the echoes of those CM Punk chants. You went on your buddy's podcast, tried to tear this place down. When that didn't work, you took every single shot you could to try to kill this place, and you still couldn't do it. And then you took a big chunk of change to go join the competition. How'd that work out for you?
I was the first one through the wall, and I got bloodied for it. You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me. I loved the place I worked. I just hated the guy in charge, and he loved you. And in situations where you should have had my back, all you did was shoot arrows in it. Next week, those same arrows that were supposed to do me in, I carry to this day. And I'm walking into LA, Netflix, live and in living color, with a fistful of arrows, and I'm gonna jam them down your corporate throat.
You bring your fistful of arrows, I'll bring my eyes of fire and my heart full of hate and rage, and I will burn you to the ground.
Now that was Punk and Seth going at it once again. As I said, this is their final confrontation as we lead up to Raw on Netflix for next week. And again, this year would be the main event because Punk and Seth, they do have some gripes with one another. More Seth on Punk than Punk on Seth. Because as you know, Punk is the guy that everybody has beef with because Punk doesn't like to hold his tongue, and Punk's whole demeanor has always been, hey, I'm CM Punk, and if I don't like something, I'm going to speak out about it. And that's what Seth's whole gripe is about. You left the company, you went on your buddy's podcast, just as he said, you tried to disparage the company, and when that didn't work, you constantly talked about it some more everywhere else. You went and took money from the competition. It didn't turn out well there. You come back here and now you want to wave the flag of the company like you're that guy, that this company's so great now. And Seth isn't feeling it because he just basically sees Punk as a cancer, a guy that needs to be cut out of the system, cut out of the well-being of the WWE, and he wants to be the guy to do it. And that's Seth's whole thing. And Punk basically got to the grips of it saying, you're mad because I abandoned you. And Punk did leave up WWE, but as he stated before in this, but more eloquently in AEW, when he first came back to professional wrestling as a legit competitor, he talked about how he couldn't get better in a place that he got sick before. And the sickness was Vince McMahon. As Punk said, I loved the place that I worked. I just hated the guy that ran it. And he loved you. And he's talking about Vince, and he's talking about when Seth was the guy in the Shield, the guy that left the Shield, become the figure face for the Authority, the guy that ends up winning the WWE Championship to end off WrestleMania 31, and how he was always paired up in a main event spot that way. And Punk has a point there too, because when you look at the Shield, and you look at all three of them, Roman obviously is number one. That's without a doubt. Seth was number two, guy that was looked after. You could see that in everything when the Shield broke up. John Moxley, he wasn't. He was a guy that was always looked down upon, which is crazy. Because you would think in the Shield, when you look at all three of them, especially in the early days of the Shield, Dean had the radicalness, he had the mic skills, he had even that cool, sinister type of look that you would want in a top heel spot, and he just wasn't given that position when the Shield broke up. And when you look back at it, and I've said it before, and I say it again every single time, WWE pulled off the greatest switcheroo that I don't think nobody saw coming, of Seth being the guy to kill the Shield. When people always talked about it, especially during that time, who was going to kill the Shield, which one of the three guys would turn, it was always either Dean or Roman. I don't care what no one says. No one saw Seth being the guy to take the dagger and stab it in his brother's back. Nobody did. That's what made that event so great and so memorable. If Roman or Dean would have did it, yes, it still would have been a, oh my God, but it wouldn't have been to the level at which we see it now play out. Because the annals of time, if you look at that whole Shield thing at the time it was happening, we thought Roman was going to do it because he was the big power guy, and it was going to be a hard battle for Dean or Seth to climb over Roman. We thought Dean was going to do it because, again, you look at his character, you look at his look, you look at his movement, you would think he is the guy initially that should stab his two brothers in the back. But it was Seth. And if Seth wasn't the guy that was going to stab the Shield in the back, I've said it before and I'll say it again, he was going to end up being a white version of Kofi Kingston. A guy that can do everything in the ring, but just be left high and dry. Because if you look at Kofi's career, he can do high flying. When he bulked up, he could have put some power moves on. He can strike. He can do some submission stuff. He could talk on the mic when you give him the time to talk, especially as you can see with his heel persona. You know he can talk. Kofi just wasn't given the position to be a world champion until he got with the New Day, and they had no other choice but to make him it because the fans willed it into existence for Kofi Mania. But if it wasn't for that, Kofi would be another mid-card guy with the tag team titles, Intercontinental US, not a world championship slated to his resume, especially after being in multiple Money in the Bank matches. That's just a fact. I have a feeling that Seth Rollins would have been in the exact same position, been slated in different mid-card positions, multiple Money in the Bank opportunity matches, but just never being the guy to click that, because I think Vince would have saw him in a different capacity if he wasn't the guy to turn on the Shield. Now, I might get killed for that thought, but I want you guys to really think about it. I want you to look at Shield promos. Look at when the Shield came into the WWE. Look at how they progressed before the split. You tell me if I'm lying. You tell me if I'm wrong. I guarantee you, with me saying that Seth would have been the white Kofi Kingston, you can't get that out of your head now. It's going to be there. But I digress. But Punk, he's right. Vince liked Seth after that whole situation came down. And Seth was always looked after. So it's just a funny thing when you see Seth and Punk literally going back and forth with one another. And it's just going to be a great thing. The hatred that Seth has for Punk, the Punk not really having hatred, but he just wants to get this thing done with Seth, is going to be great when those two lock up next week on Monday Night Raw on Netflix. And again, I think it should be the main event, but with us not knowing of the surprises that might could happen on Raw with Cody being on Raw, we'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen. But that's what's the stuff that happened on Monday Night Raw this week. So with that, that's your Raw wrestling highlights of the week. And now let's move over to SmackDown. So on SmackDown this week, this is their first time doing 3 hours of SmackDown, I believe. And I believe from now until the future, SmackDown will be continuing 3 hours. So this is where we're at with SmackDown here. First and foremost, SmackDown has a blue mat now. It's no longer the white mat. They changed it to blue. So if you expect SmackDown to be blue, Raw is more than likely going to be red. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping Raw just continues to be white canvas, because that would be a real off-putting thing with it being red. But again, time will tell with that. That's the first thing I noticed on SmackDown. SmackDown also this week, they had Cody Rhodes coming out. Cody Rhodes would talk about Kevin Owens and how he's not able to wrestle right now because the WWE officials are not allowing Cody to wrestle because of his neck. They're worried about Cody's neck since Cody got package pile driver by Kevin at Saturday's Night Main Event. So they're not allowing him to wrestle. Cody will continue to talk more about how he's going to push through this. He can't wait to get his hands on Kevin Owens until Drew McIntyre will come down to the ring. Drew will get in the ring, and you have this little stare down between Cody and Drew. Drew will walk up to Cody and just hug him. And Cody would look surprised and shocked by this and not really trusting Drew's motives. So Drew would get a microphone, and Drew would tell Cody, listen, I'm not out here to attack you. You're not on my list. He's actually out here to tell Cody that he's proud of him and that he wants to give Cody some advice. He tells Cody that he's making a mistake. He's making a mistake dealing with someone like Kevin Owens, dealing with a guy that's walking around with a replica championship like some of the idiot fans, and thinking that he's a champion when he's not. You're dealing with someone that's not all the way there. And as he's giving Cody this warning, Cody would just cut him off and say, listen, Drew, I wish I can say that I actually appreciate you being out here, that I actually can say that I think that your words are genuine, but I don't think so. I think you're out here with a motive. So what's your motive? What is it? You're coming after the championship. You want to match up. We can do it now. Cody's just real paranoid at this moment. So Cody is just throwing everything out there to just figure out why Drew is actually here. Drew doesn't take the bait. Drew tells Cody point blank once again, I'm not out here to fight you. I told you I am out here to be a friend to you, because right now you have nobody to watch your back, and I'll do that. I'll be the guy to watch your back for you. You need it right now. And Cody will once again shut down Drew, saying, listen, I don't need your help. I don't trust you. I can't trust any words that you're saying. And that'll be it. Drew will tell Cody, you're going to find out that you need someone to watch your back. And I'm telling the truth. And as Drew's leaving the ring, he would stand on the apron and he would tell Cody, Cody, I'm telling you, you need someone to watch your back. And also, you need to turn around. Cody doesn't turn around to take notice to Drew's advice, and he gets hit with Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens hits Cody from behind, starts beating on him, and you see Kevin Owens and Drew just lock eyes with one another. And then they just go about their separate business. Drew goes to the back. Kevin Owens still puts the boot to Cody's neck. He's really aiming for that. Backstage officials will come down, separate Cody and KO. Those two would break away. More Cody breaking away from his people holding him, constantly just going after Kevin. And that'll be the end of the beginning segment for SmackDown. And that's a funny thing. Because later in the night, you see Sammy backstage with Carmelo, because Carmelo's talking about him having a match with Sammy last week, how he almost beat Sammy. And you get the Usos walking up on this conversation. They back Sammy and they ask Mello, do we got a problem here? And Mello would just back away from this because he knows he's outnumbered. The Usos will talk to Sammy. Sammy will tell the Usos, listen, I gotta get myself together because they had a 6-man main event against the Bloodline later that night. So Sammy walks away, and you see Jimmy and Jay walk, and they talk a little bit, and then Kevin Owens walks up, and Jay and KO just like shoulder bump one another. And you see Jay tell KO, you need to watch where you're walking, Oos. And KO tells Jay, you need to watch your back. And then you just see Kevin Owens just walk away. That's the same information that Drew told Cody earlier tonight. So you kind of get where I'm about to go here with this foreshadowing. But I'll get to that in the main event with the 6-man tag. You have Chelsea Green come out with Piper Niven because Piper has a match with Michin. They get that match together. Michin would win over Piper. Then you have Shinsuke Nakamura going against Andrade. Shinsuke would defeat Andrade with a Kinshasa. After the match was over, LA Knight would come running down to the ring because LA Knight wants to get his hands on Shinsuke because they're in a little beef right now because Shinsuke has the United States Championship. LA would beat up on Shinsuke, and Shinsuke would roll out of the ring with the U.S. Championship, and it will be made official the next week. LA Knight will be going against Shinsuke Nakamura for the United States Championship, so that was made. We had DIY going against the Motor City Machine Guns in a tag team championship matchup for the WWE tag team titles. DIY defending the belts. They will retain said championships thanks to I want to say no contest, because as Motor City Machine Guns have DIY in a submission moves because Alex Shelley had the Motor City stretch on Johnny Gargano as Chris Sabin had a submission on Ciampa. Pretty Deadly is outside the ring dealing with Angel and Humberto of LDF, Legado del Fantasma. Pretty Deadly would get in the ring and Angel and Humberto would basically tackle them on top of Ciampa and Sabin, Shelley, and Gargano. The referee will call for the bell, no contest. So DIY escapes with the WWE Tag Team Championships. And earlier in the night, they told Pretty Deadly that for them to become number one contenders for the tag team titles, DIY needs to retain said championships. So DIY needs to hold up their part of the bargain now for Pretty Deadly. So we got to wait to find out next week if they will. I have a feeling that there's going to be some shenanigans with that because Nick Aldis, he's a general manager that doesn't like shenanigans like this. So I have a feeling that we're going to get some type of big mega tag team gauntlet or something probably coming soon for those WWE tag team titles. Because SmackDown, they're using their tag team division. They're actually getting them active. That's something that the Raw side could actually learn from. But hopefully, I'm hoping they do so with the Raw, again, going to Netflix, more time or whatever they have on there. Hopefully, they'll invest in that. But time will tell. But I do like that SmackDown is using their tag team division. Even in what they do have, I'm glad they are using it like this right now, right? You had the women's championship being defended. Nia Jax defending her title against Naomi. Nia Jax will retain her championship thanks in part due to help from Tiffany Stratton. Because when it looked like Naomi and Nia were on the mat, they're both tired. They're just down and out, right? Tiffany Stratton will come running down to the ring with a referee in her Money in the Bank briefcase, and it looks like she's ready to cash this mother in. So she has a referee over by the timekeeper area. The ref that's officiating the matchup is dealing with Candice because Candice is on the ring apron at this moment. And you just see Tiffany looking around. She shoves her referee that she brought down to the ring over the ring, the timekeeper area. And she would go over and hit Naomi in the head with the briefcase, right? So this was like a swerve, like Tiffany isn't going to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase here. Nia would get up, hit the Annihilator on Naomi, and Nia would retain her Women's Championship. So after the match is over, you see Nia in the ring. She looks like she wants to deliver Naomi another Annihilator. Candice is in the ring. Tiffany's in the ring. Tiffany will grab her Miss Money in the Bank briefcase as Nia's on the second rope. She would hit Nia with it. Candice looks surprised. Candice tries to go over and hit Tiffany, but Tiffany will move out of the way and hit Candice with the Miss Money in the Bank briefcase. And at this time, Bianca Belair is now out here around the ring. Bianca would get in the ring, grab Nia, hit the KOD on Nia, and then Tiffany would see this perfect opportunity, grab Bianca by her hair, throw her over the commentator's table, and finally decide to cash in her Miss Money in the Bank briefcase. Now the fans are going stupid dumb. They're excited about this at this moment. She cashes in. They ring the bell. Tiffany hits the prettiest moonsault ever onto Nia. 1, 2, 3. Tiffany Stratton is your new Miss Money in the Bank. And I'm glad that they pulled this trigger. I thought they were going to do this somewhere around Mania time. But, hey, on the 3-hour first time ever deal of Smackdown, it makes sense. It gives people something to look forward to look, if they didn't watch it, look back at it just to see that moment and also see that great match that they had with Nia and Naomi. But again, it was a great moment for Tiffany, and it's only going to hype up the match that we're going to get from Nia and Tiffany, because there's no way that you have a champion that was a powerful champion the way that Nia was, and you're not going to get her to get at least a pound of flesh off of Tiffany. Two people that were two peas in a pod together until Nia got too much into power and allowed Candice to kind of sideswipe Tiffany and be Nia's like new best friend. So I can see the jealousy angle, best friend angle being into this thing with Nia and Tiffany. But again, next week's Smackdown for certainty will be one that you definitely have to see because of that. Paul Heyman, he will pop up on SmackDown. Paul Heyman will get in the ring. He talks about the importance of the tribal combat match between Solo and Roman. He talks about how Solo was groomed to be the next tribal chief by Paul and Roman, but the way that Solo did it isn't the right way to do it, because Roman didn't give the Ulafala off to Solo, didn't drape it on him the way that Alpha and Sika did to Roman, the elders did to Roman. No. Solo just took it, and he got his gang of misfits to be here. And Paul is just basically talking about the importance again of the tribal combat stuff and how Solo is not the real tribal chief, right? Solo will come out. Paul would tell Solo, listen, I know that you can have Jacob, Tama come out here and just beat me up in the blink of an eye if I even look at you wrong. And as Paul says all this, Solo would just listen. And once Paul's done, Solo will put his hand out and again do another mimic of what Roman does when Paul is out there with him. Paul will put his mic in Solo's hand. And Solo quite simply tells Paul, listen, I need a favor from you, because I'm going to do you a favor. He tells Paul that he needs Paul to be out there whenever him and Roman go at it at Netflix on Raw for the title of the tribal chief, because he knows that Paul respects his family, Paul respects the Ulafala, Paul respects everything about their community. And he's been around their family so long that he respects that family, and that no one else should be holding that Ulafala while me and Roman battle at one another but you. And he says, if Roman wins, you're going to be draping that over his neck. But when I win, you're going to drape that over my neck, and you will be mine forever. So this sets an important thing again for Paul's part in that matchup with Roman and Solo. Are we going to see a swerve that we didn't see coming with Paul joining with Solo to be his wise man? Or will we see Roman beat Solo to become, gain back his Ulafala. We'll have to wait and see on Raw. But again, that was a nice little importance of a segment that we got from Paul and Solo there. Anyway, moving to the main event, the 6-man tag, the new bloodline going against the OG bloodline there. The new bloodline would win thanks to Solo hitting Jay with the Samoan Spike after Jay hits Jacob with the Uso Splash, not knowing that Solo tagged himself in, and ta-da, Solo hit Jay with a spike. Drew McIntyre, he would come down to the ring before the match was over, though, however, because, again, he has a list of the people that sided with Roman, and Sammy, Jimmy, Jay, they're all on that list. So Drew's out here to try to do something, but before he actually could do anything, Jay would hit Drew with the suicide dive, and there you go. Now, I've said it in previous episodes, and I'm going to say it here. We are slowly starting to see the formation of Roman's biggest haters out there right now coming together. Drew and KO, they will be forming together to put Roman and his OG bloodline through some hell in this 2025 year. I have a feeling we're going to see that. And I also have a feeling that we're going to see Seth Rollins join them as well, because Seth has a beef with Roman. He has a beef with all the people that's siding with Roman, even though they're family. The hatred is still going to come out from Seth. And I have a feeling that we're not going to see no more of this cackling Seth Rollins. No, we're going to see the straight up player hating Seth Rollins that we got from his feud with Matt Riddle in 2022. I have a feeling we're going to see that guy pop his head right back into this. The same guy that was hating on Edge whenever he was feuding with Edge in late 2021. That's the type of Seth Rollins I feel that we're going to see with KO, Drew, and Seth all coming together to really make Roman's life a miserable hell in 2025. Because I feel this is the year that we're going to see Roman starting to make amends, truly make amends. Because still, we haven't heard him say, I'm sorry to Jimmy. I'm sorry to Jay. I'm sorry to Solo. I'm sorry to Paul. I'm sorry to Sammy. He hasn't said I'm sorry at all, neither one time, after he has done a lot of bombastic things to the people that propped him up to be their tribal chief. He hasn't said I'm sorry not once. So, again, 2025 is going to be the year of Roman's reckoning. And I feel that Paul is going to be part of that reckoning. I feel that Solo already is going to be part of that reckoning. I feel that The Rock is going to be part of that reckoning. And I think CM Punk's probably going to be the guy to probably start, not going to say start the reckoning, but he's going to play a part into it. Because we're going to have that Paul Heyman situation between Roman and CM Punk. We're going to have that. And again, we already got a hint of that at the Survivor Series to build up for the Men's War Games. But that's going to be the thing that I feel is going to crack Roman the most and start his atonement in 2025. But again, time will tell. We just started 2025, so we got the rest of the left of the 11 months to see about this. So that's what happened on Smackdown. I believe that's everything I do want to talk about. Oh yeah, before I get out of here, Omos, big man Omos, who was the tag team partner of AJ Styles, he went to Pro Wrestling Noah. That's an organization in Japan. He has a tag team championship now. He won it over there. He's still under WWE contract, but he is now a Pro Wrestling Noah tag team champion. So congrats to Omos. Now, with me getting that out the way, I think there's nothing else for me to talk about. This has been your Wrestling Highlights of the Week, presented by My 2 Cents Podcast, hosted by G2. He is I and I'm him. I want you guys to have a great Saturday. I want you guys to have a lovely Saturday. Please be blessed out there. Please be safe. I do want to let you guys know that I will be dropping a episode tomorrow where I talk about everything that happened in the news this week. You know what I'm going to be talking about. I'm talking about the Tesla car explosion and all the misfortunes that happened to start off this New Year's, and which is crazy when you think about it. But again, you'll hear me talk about it more tomorrow. But if you don't want to listen to that, you'll hear from me on Wednesday when I talk about things that happen or things I want to talk about in the midweek episode, or next Saturday when I talk about things in the world of professional wrestling. So again, this has been your Wrestling Highlights of the Week, presented by My 2 Cents Podcast, hosted by G2. He is I and I am him. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Be blessed. Bye-bye now.